Good afternoon. Today is 18 May, the year 2025. I'm Dr. Dave Thompson, a volunteer at the Palm Springs Air Museum here in Palm Springs, California. As part of the Veterans History Project of the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., we conduct interviews of veterans and civilians who participated in our country's military conflicts. Today, I'm here at the museum with a fellow volunteer, Diane Thompson, and today we have the honor and the privilege of hearing the story of Sergeant Sid Hubbard. Sergeant Hubbard was an Air Force F-100 weapons mechanic at Phan Rang Air Base in South Vietnam, 1968 and 1969. So we're going to talk to him about that and a lot of other things. Sarge, really good to have you here, buddy.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for your volunteer work here,
Well,
too.
thank you. Thanks for. I've heard a little bird in my ear saying that he might become a volunteer here too, so it's on record now, so he's not going to be able to get out of it.
This is one of our favorite places to come to, so I think it would be an honor to be a part of it. So.
Okay. Okay, Sid, first of all, when were you born?
1943.
What date?
March 5th, 1943 in San Jose, California.
San Jose, California. Okay. And could you state and spell your full name for us, please?
It's Sidney, S-I-D-N-E-Y, Hubbard, H-U-B-B-A-R-D.
So you were born about in the middle of World War II.
Yes.
What was your father doing then? And what was his name?
His Bud Hubbard, and he had some lumber yards in the San Francisco Bay Area that he was managing, and had several kids, about 4 or 5 kids, and so
Yeah.
and because of his age, he wasn't involved in the direct contact, but he did other things to make up for that.
And where did his, like what?
Pardon?
Like what other things? You say he did other things to make up for being...
Oh, he was very involved in Silicon Valley, in the political, helping to build roads and water systems, and he had 5 years that he devoted and did a tremendous job in that Santa Clara County, which is the heart of Silicon Valley, and helped building the infrastructure for all that.
And where did his ancestors come from, like in the old country? How did they end up in San Jose or in California?
Well, I'm on both sides of my family. There's about 3 generations in that area. My mom's side of the family were all orchardists, growing apricots and prunes and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
My dad's side were all lumber people, 3 generations, and they used to log redwoods up above San Jose, up in the Saratoga Gap, they called it, and I have pictures of them bringing logs out of the mountains with oxen trains, and they take them down to San Francisco Bay, make a raft, and float those up to San Francisco where the lumber mills were located.
Where in the old country did they come from?
You know, I think they're Irish in England.
Okay.
I think some German. Mom's side of the family they landed in Connecticut and then made their way out here to put in orchards.
Right. And what was your mom's name and her maiden name?
She was Beatrice Silker, and again, she was from San Jose, and she went to all the Los Gatos High School. One of her best friends was Olivia de Havilland, the movie star.
Yeah.
And then she went to San Jose State, where she met my dad, who was a great football player and athlete at San Jose State. He played in the National Football League for the Brooklyn Dodgers, of all people.
Sure.
It's not the baseball team. The football team had a franchise in the 30s. And so
Matter of fact, I think that was one of the games Brooklyn was playing on December 7th that they broke into.
oh, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I heard that somewhere. And you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I have 3 brothers and a sister. The 4 of us were kind of throwouts. They're trying to get my sister, who finally came in last. So,
And what were their names?
Michael, Russell, Taylor, and Lori.
And where do they all live?
Well, my oldest brother lives in Napa in the wine country of California, and my second oldest brother passed away here a few years ago. We lived in this Rockland, California. And my brother Taylor lives in Davis, California, near Sacramento. And my sister Lori has some acreage and ranch property in near Placerville, California.
Okay, yeah. So you all stayed around California.
Yeah.
Don't blame you. Was your family very religious? Did you go to church a lot?
Yes, we were raised Christian Scientist family. Both sides of the head were raised in that. My mom in particular was active in the church.
Can you talk a little bit about that? I know some people are, what I've heard, I don't really know, that they don't like to go to doctors and stuff and take medicine and stuff like that.
Yeah, the nice thing about the religion, it's very flexible. If you want to rely on prayer for healing, they do that. If you need a medical attention, a broken bone, feel free to do that. There's no peer pressure to do that. So that's what I like about it.
Yeah, sure. So, what did your kids do for fun when you were growing up? And let's back up just a little bit. You're too young to remember World War II, I'm sure, but I'm sure your parents talked about it and stuff. Can you relate a little bit about that? Did you say you had older brothers too?
Yes.
So how
Two. They're about 5 years older.
Okay, so they're old enough to remember what was going on probably, but you were too little. But what do you remember having been told about it or whatever, what the family was involved in?
I don't remember their discussions with them very much. The first time about war that I was in 1950 when the Korean War broke out.
Yeah.
I saw the headlines and the photographs and the picture, and it made a very strong impression to me today. What's going on? What's happening? And
I remember, because I was a little bit older than you, because I was born in '39, but when Korea came along, I was still in grade school, probably 6th or 7th grade, and I would get comic books all the time. And some of these comic books would have fictitious things going on in Korea.
Yeah.
And with tanks and flamethrowers and guys on fire and stuff, and that scared me to death too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I saw pictures of the tanks and so forth, and I really left an impression on me.
Oh yeah, me too. Exactly. Yeah. So did you live out in the country, or where did
No,
you?
we lived in Palo Alto.
Palo Alto.
That's where I was raised, right in Palo Alto.
Okay.
And
Do you
right
remember the
near
street?
Stanford University campus. And it was just great to grow up with the Packard kids and the Hewlett kids. All went to the same schools, and my dad and Dave Packard in particular were very close friends. And so it was very interesting to live in that town when the Silicon Valley was just starting to take off.
Right. Yeah. So you remember the street you lived on?
Fulton Street, also known as Christmas Tree Lane. It's a
Oh.
2-block area, and I
Yeah.
put up Christmas lights. There's 2 trees on every house, and did that for years. Even after I was married and moved on, my mom would call me, get over here and put up the lights. And then the neighbors who were widows or so forth would call me over and help me put up my lights too.
What was the address of the?
The house is 1755 Fulton Street, Palo Alto.
Still there, I guess.
Yes, it is.
In the family.
No.
So what did your kids do for fun when you were growing up?
Well, with Stanford University was right in our backyard. We're going to every possible game.
Right.
We rode our bikes all over the campus. There was a park nearby, a swimming pool, and they had a refreshment stand. I'd go over and get my big hunk candy bar. And,
Did you try and get autographs of the football players and stuff?
oh yes, they were.
Do you remember some of your favorite players?
Well, I could name all the 49ers and Stanford from '59. Y.A. Tittle, Joe the Jet Perry, John Henry Johnson, Billy Wilson, Clyde Connor, Leo Nomalini, Bruno Banducci, to name a few.
Yeah. And any of those guys Stanford grads?
Oh yeah, I met, of course, John Brody, who went to Stanford, and
Yeah.
John and Jim Plunkett and all that crowd.
Yeah.
Elway, there was quite a few of them, but they came in later. But
Yeah.
those were my heroes.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And if you ask what I did on our part-time, I love sports. So constantly playing Little League or Pop Warner football.
So the Giants didn't come till what, 59, I
Yeah.
think. Before that, they had the San Francisco
Seals.
The Seals, right?
San Francisco Seals.
Did you go to those games?
I went to a few games.
And where was their park?
It's right off Highway 101. I can't remember the name of the park,
Yeah.
but it was a pretty rickety deal. And that's when the Giants came, they built Candlestick Park.
Right.
So and I used to go to their games
Yeah.
frequently. So.
And we went to a couple games at Candlestick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still haven't been to the new one yet.
Yeah.
I used to go up all the time because I'm a dentist, and then Northern California dental meeting was always in the fall, in October and September, I guess. And I think they were still playing, baseball, so we did get to see a couple of those games.
Yeah, I used to saw Willie Mays and Willie McCovey. That was a real treat.
But lately, when we were going up, actually, wanted to go to they had built a new park, but we never got around to going to it. Have you been to that one?
Yes, I had season tickets. I shared with a couple other companies.
Oh, yeah.
Used to go.
It's nice.
Yeah.
It looks really nice on TV and everything. Yeah.
It is.
McCovey Cove.
Yeah.
Do you have a boat? Do you have a
No.
boat? No boating?
No boating.
Okay.
Just, we spent our summers up at Lake Tahoe, but it was just on the beach all the time.
What part of Tahoe would you go to?
South Lake Tahoe. My great uncle built a log cabin there.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Still there. My brother's taken possession of it. And had moss chinking between the logs to keep the air out.
So where'd you go to grade school?
I went to Walter Hayes Elementary, and then went to Jordan Junior High School, then went to Palo Alto High School.
You remember any of your favorite teachers?
Yes. One in particular, my high school, taught Far East history, of all things. And it was my Miss Turner, and she taught the class like it was going to be a college-type class in high school, and very demanding, but I remember that class more than anything else.
Did she talk much about what led up to World War II as far as the Japanese were concerned?
Somewhat. Actually, I ended up being a history major in college and business minor, but finally went that direction. But in college, studied quite a bit about World War II.
Yeah.
And
Well, when you were in high school, did you have a car when you?
yes,
What did you have?
it was a '58 Dodge. It had 12-inch wide white walls.
Yeah, I remember those. That was really cool. What color was it?
Excuse me, it was a '48 Dodge.
48.
Yeah, it was a '48 Dodge. That's what I was.
What color was it?
It was black.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
like most of them were.
2-door, 4-door?
Four-door. It was actually kind of a stretch. It was fluid drive. And it was halfway between a stick shift and an automatic. It was called fluid drive.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. And did you have any special girlfriends in high school?
Yeah, there were several.
So what did you guys like for dates? Did you drive around, and did you have a favorite hangout, hamburger joint or
I'm
anything?
going to take the fifth on that one. But no, we went to all the proms and homecoming dances and stuff like that.
Did you have well, even when you were in grade school, a neighborhood movie theater you kids
Yeah.
went, like on Saturdays?
Yeah, in fact, the Stanford Theater in downtown Palo Alto, which has now been taken over by Dave Packard's son. He shows all these archive movies now. It's been quite
Oh, that's cool.
a place to go to. They kept the old pipe organ there, and they still play it. And so, but yeah, we used to go to that in the Varsity Theater. You take a gal to that movies now and then.
Uh-huh. And did you have, like, say, a McDonald's or any kind of a hamburger place that you guys would go
Yeah,
to?
Foster Freeze,
Foster
that was the
Freeze.
big hangout.
Uh-huh. And that was all in Palo Alto?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's cool. So did you played sports in high school?
Yeah.
What did you play?
Football. I was on the wrestling team. Played water polo for a year or two. Some basketball. I love sports.
What were your team colors?
Green and white.
Green and white.
Yeah.
Okay. And what was your mascot? What were you called?
The Vikings.
Vikings.
Yep.
Okay.
So you're testing my memory.
Pretty good game for contact sport. Vikings. We were just watching the TV series out called Vikings, and they got pretty rough.
Yeah.
What positions did you play?
Mainly in the line. I did play 4 years in college too. Then I played a year of semi-pro, which I could tell you about it later, which is an interesting story about that.
Oh yeah, right. Okay, so how big were you in high school?
Like I tell you, I wrestled the 175 categories. I remember that, and then I ended up senior year in the 191 category, but I was about 185 or something like that.
And as tall as you are now?
Yeah, 6'2".
6'2". Okay, pretty good size. So where'd you go to college then?
I went to Principia College in Illinois. It's
Oh,
right
yeah.
across the river from St. Louis. It's
Okay.
one of the most beautiful college campuses. It's right on the bluffs of the Mississippi River, and you can watch all the riverboat traffic going by. And,
Yeah.
and so, and
Yeah,
I got-
St. Louis. I lived in Evansville, Indiana, which was
Oh, yeah.
just across Illinois from there. So
Yeah.
Cardinals were always my favorite baseball team. I started following them
Oh,
in
yeah.
1946. Harry Carey's first year that he.
Oh yeah,
he did the
Harry
Cardinals.
Carey. I remember him well.
Yeah, he was character, and so I lived and died with the Cardinals. Was that was it a church school?
It's affiliated with the Christian Science Church,
Yeah.
and so, yeah.
So what position? Where did you play?
I was a defensive end and offensive tackle, and
Were you at a conference?
yeah, I can't remember. Prairie College Conference.
Who were some of the other teams that you?
Earlham,
That's Indiana.
Elmhurst, Rose Poly Institute, Culver Stockton. Those are the few I can remember.
Right. Yeah.
I think we ended up playing some of the teams in the South, College of the South and College of the Ozarks.
Yeah, I think a couple of those were in Indiana. You're talking about.
Yeah, Rose Poly, yeah.
Rose Poly, I think, was in Terre Haute, I believe.
Yeah.
Earlham was around there somewhere too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, backing up in high school, were your teams pretty good?
Yeah, in fact, we had a very good high school football team. My senior year on Thanksgiving Day, we played at Stanford Stadium. And we were ranked number 10 in the state of California, and the team we were playing was number 1 in the state. It was really well publicized, and this is a traditional game on Thanksgiving Day to play at Stanford Stadium.
Yeah.
We had 20,000 people who showed up for a high school football game, and they beat us by a touchdown now.
That was pretty good, though. Do you remember who that was? What team that was you played?
Yeah, it was Redwood City Sequoia High School.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I still love high school football in particular, and they have a lot of good teams here in Orange County and there. And they televise them here once a week.
Yeah.
Try and watch all those.
Yeah. No, that was really a fun game.
Any of your classmates go on to big time college football?
No, my opponents on the other team had 3 or 4 of them that played for Oregon and Washington, and some played for the Oakland Raiders. So, but none of ours, they played in junior colleges. But we had good players, but they played for Stanford, and some of our players went to Stanford.
So what year did you graduate from high school?
1961.
61, okay. And then you went to, did you go 4 years to?
Yes, 4 years there.
How you spell that school?
PRIN CIPIA, Principia College.
Okay, yeah.
And,
What were your colors there?
pardon?
Your colors there, team colors.
Blue and gold.
Blue and gold. Okay.
In fact, I got a blue and gold Hall of Fame award there, so
Wow.
that was kind of nice.
Very good,
And of course, I met my wife there too, so
yeah. Okay, all right.
that was a big accomplishment.
And what was her name?
It's now Donnie Hubbard, but it was Donnie, well, you would have known her as Donna V. Ellison. Ellison.
Ellison, yeah.
And,
Okay.
and in college, she switched to Donnie.
Yeah.
And she grew up here in
Palm Springs, that's her hometown.
Yeah, what did her father do?
He was a cab driver and a limousine driver, and did dispatching for the cab company. He loved to drive cars,
Here in Palm Springs?
and he drove a lot of the celebrities.
Oh, yeah.
And he was a very personable guy, and they loved him, and they, every time she got cookies from different ones, and
Yeah.
Lily Pons, the famous opera singer, gave her French lessons. And
Lily Pons lived, what, next door to you, didn't she, Diane?
Yeah.
is that right? Yeah.
For a while, yeah.
Yeah. So she tried to correct my wife's Texas twang that she had in her trying to speak French.
Was she originally from Texas? Your wife?
She was born in Texas until she was about 9 years old. And then
Where
came
where was she born?
Border, Texas, up in the Panhandle of Texas.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, and what was her major in college?
In political science and history, both of that.
I think did she graduate? What year did she graduate from high
She graduated 2 years in front of me. 1963
Okay.
is when she graduated from college.
Yeah, 61, 63, yeah, okay. So you met, do you remember how you met in school?
Yes, she was the first girl I met on campus. I was back early for football camp, and she was the campus social director, so she was back early to get calendars all coordinated with the staff. And my football buddies told her, hey, there's a guy you gotta meet. We have a new buddy.
Was this your freshman year or what?
Yeah, my freshman year, her sophomore year.
Oh,
Or her junior year.
Oh, so she had started there before you.
2 years ahead of me. And so we immediately hit it off, became very good friends, but she was engaged to our student body president, so it took me a few years to unravel that.
There you go. But you graduated in 61
High
for
school.
high school. And when did you start college then?
That same year, 61.
61.
Uh-huh.
And she graduated from high school in 63, did you say?
She would have been 59.
Oh, 59, okay, the other way around.
High school.
All right, I got you. I thought it was the other, okay, so I see. So she'd been there, knew the ropes, and
Yeah.
roped you, sounds like.
Well, no, it took me a little more convincing on my side. It was an interesting story.
Yeah, tell us about
She
it.
was engaged to this other fellow, but then she started getting a little bit cold feet. They were both going to go to Harvard. He was going to go to Harvard Law School. She was going to go to Harvard as well for her master's work after school and become an education. She started getting some cold feet a little bit, and wasn't sure. She said, "Listen, I think I'll spend a year away and see if I still feel the same way." So without telling anybody, she applied to Stanford University. And didn't tell anybody, but one day I walk into the mailroom and there's my wife Donnie, her future wife, jumping up and down all excited. She showed me this packet, and it was a packet from Stanford University and saying, you've been accepted, and here's a scholarship, a grant, and a loan, and see us about a job when you get back. And she's so excited. And then she shows me the letter. I said, Stanford. And I look at it, and I'm reading. She said, gee, why are you taking so long to read it? I said, well, you know who this letter is from. And she said, yeah, it's the Dean of Admission. I said, well, that's my uncle, Ricksford Snyder. This is back in Illinois.
Yeah.
And I said, if you go to Stanford, I'll have my folks invite you over for Sunday dinners. And she said, well, you live in Palo Alto. And I said, well, Stanford and Palo Alto are one, and she didn't know that. And well, sure enough, she decided to go to Stanford, got accepted. And then I'd see her on my vacations when I came back. And when we started, in that meantime, she'd broken up her engagement. And so then we started dating out in California, and my folks did a good job of giving her Sunday dinners.
Yeah. But you were still in Illinois when,
Yeah.
when she was at Stanford?
Yeah, for 2 more years. So.
Did you have a car there in
Yeah,
college?
I had a 58 Bel Air and a 58 Impala. The Bel Air going across country, 6 of us were in the car going across Nebraska, and I'd let somebody else drive my car after driving about 4 hours. I fell asleep in it. I didn't realize it started snowing, and the driver lost control of the car and rolled it with 6 of us in it.
Oh my God.
But we all cushioned each other, and so no one got hurt. And so I replaced that 58 Bel Air with a 58 Impala.
I guess, yeah. So then and you were a history major, you said?
Yes.
And
And I
business
took a
minor.
lot of business as a minor, and I loved history.
So when you were going to school, did you have ROTC there?
No.
Okay.
Didn't
But
I?
you were aware of Vietnam
Very
by
much,
that time? What was
very
going
much
on?
aware of it. Was very much involved in all of our discussions and everything else. And so very much aware of it.
Yeah. So then, when you graduated 65,
Yes.
and then what?
I got a great offer from a Weyerhaeuser company. My dad was in the lumber business, and on a golf game I met some of the executives from Weyerhaeuser, and they said they've ever considered a career in the lumber business with Weyerhaeuser. I said, gee, they're the premier company in the lumber industry. I said that'd be too good to pass up. So I agreed to go to work for them, which I did, and spent 6 months doing nothing but training, going through lumber mills, and
Where was that?
up in Tacoma, Washington was their headquarters. Had a lot of classroom instruction there, then went out to the mills, timberlands, distribution centers. And then they assigned me to the Colorado territory
When you
to sell
said,
lumber and plywood to all the lumber yards.
when you said you had classroom instruction, was that in one of the colleges, local colleges there?
No, it was in their headquarters.
In their headquarters, yeah. Okay.
Let me get some water.
Yeah. Where is it? Okay.
Oops. I'll get it.
Here.
Oh, thank you. You do that.
So where in Colorado were you?
First was in Grand Junction for a few months. Excuse me. In Grand Junction, Colorado for a few months, and then I transferred into Denver. And so I lived in the town of Arvada, which is about halfway between Denver and Boulder. And so I was working for them, and
What was your draft status at that point?
I was waiting, they were doing the lottery, and my number was fairly high up. I knew I'd probably be getting a call. And one day I'm driving to work. I'm listening to the USS Pueblo ship that just got captured. And I'm listening to that on the radio. And then the announcer says, and by the way, 3 National Guard outfits have been activated as a result of that crisis, one of which is the Colorado Air National Guard, which I was a member of.
You joined that when you got to Colorado?
Yeah, so I joined the Colorado Air Guard, and they said all members report to your base immediately. I went up and did a U-turn, put my uniform on. That was the last day I worked for Weyerhaeuser, and our unit got activated because a lot of our pilots had Korean War experience, and we thought we probably might have to go to Korea. But after a few weeks, that thing kind of settled down a little bit, And the military said, well, now that we've got you, we got another place for you. And that's when we got sent to Vietnam at that time.
And were you engaged at this point, or were you engaged?
I was married,
Oh, you were married then. Okay.
had one child and one on the way.
Wow.
And my poor wife was pretty upset about me going overseas and all that. And she called her dad to tell him, and kind of sobbing and everything. And he said, "You're going to be home with a child and one on the way." He says, "I think he got the better deal." It's probably true.
So when did you get married?
We got married in '65, right after, as soon as I graduated from college, we got married. And
Here in Palm Springs?
no, in Palo Alto.
Palo Alto.
Yeah. So,
Okay, so so then did you go to basic?
Yes.
Or had you, being in the Air Guard, did that
at
take
Weyerhaeuser, when I got my draft notice that I was going to be drafted, and they said, "Gee, we just spent all this time and money training you. Isn't there something you can get in and get out of in a hurry so we don't waste all that time and money?" And I found an opening in the Colorado Air Guard, and I had a choice of 3 months of active duty as an enlisted guy or 4 months as an officer. And I said, "I'll go the 3-month deal to get back to work
Sure.
right away."
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And I went to, the name is, excuse me, down in Texas, North Texas, near Amarillo, I can't think of the name of the base, but anyway, that's where I was,
Okay.
basic.
Pretty basic, yeah. Okay. And when did you find out you were going to be working on weapons? Did they do an aptitude test?
No,
How did
that
they
was
figure out?
immediately, as soon as I joined, they said, "That's going to be your specialty." They did some testing. I was much better on the English and math and worse on the mechanical stuff. That's where we want you.
So, where were you stationed when you left to go to Vietnam?
We were in Buckley Air Base, right outside of Denver. That's where we did all our intensive training on the munitions training and all that. It was done right there.
And that would be the munitions that the planes would be, with the F-100 in particular,
Yes,
or any?
so as bombs, and they had 4 machine guns, 20 millimeter cannons on the planes. So we learned how to service those guns and load them and put rounds in them at the end of the runway. We'd put a round in. We wouldn't do that in the parking area.
How heavy were
And then bombs, 250-pound bombs, 500s, and napalm.
Yeah. And the machine gun rounds, were they, how big were they? What,
They're 20
like
millimeter.
50,
They're about
like so.
6 to 8 inches long. And yeah, they had 4 of those, 2 on each side of the F-100.
Are they on a belt like they were in World War II, or how is it?
Not on a, they were on a belt. They were put in a box. They just fed
They
right out of
just
the box
come out
into
of
the
there,
guns.
yeah.
And yeah, so we would take care of those, and then we'd learn how to arm and de-arm the planes, and then we'd sit at the end of the runway pulling safety pins. During the time we were at Buckley Field, we used a lot of practice bombs, not the real bombs. We did the little miniature bombs that we put on there.
Did they have F-100s there?
Yes,
Okay.
so it was all F-100
So it was
squadron.
an F, so, okay. Yeah. And you knew you were going to Phan Rang probably then, or? Did they-
Interesting enough, when we got the word that we're going to be going to Vietnam, the feeling amongst all of us is they didn't want it known, the military staff, that National Guard troops were going to Vietnam. So our orders did not say Vietnam, nor did it have a duration on it. We thought when we were going over there, well, this is our 2-week summer camp. And 2 weeks came and went, and no, another month. And then I could finally remember it was Senator Lowell Weicker from Pennsylvania and said, "Hey, these people need to know what's going on. and he insisted that we be given orders and so they can tell their families and their bosses and so forth. And finally, they gave us the orders and said, "You'll be here for a year, and you'll be stationed at this Fan Ring Air Force for the whole time." So,
And where was Fan Ring?
if you were to look at a map of South Vietnam, it's on the it's crescent shaped, and the easternmost portion is Cam Ranh Bay, the big naval base, and about 20 miles inland is Fan Ring. Yeah, it's kind of a nice little area, forestry area type thing. But that's where the base was located, Central Highlands.
How many aircraft did they have?
We probably had 15 to 20 planes in our squadron, I'd guess. And there was other regular Air Force had probably another 150 or 100 planes. And there was an Australian unit there flying the Canberra bombers. They were on that base. And but it was mostly F-100s were on that base.
Yeah. Did you have any rocket attacks or anything like that when you were there?
Yeah, we had several. Some of them were, I was on the flight line when they happened, by coincidence. First, one time we were getting ready to work on a plane, and all of a sudden the mortars started coming in, aiming on the plane that we were working on.
Was that at night or during the day?
It was at night. And I immediately hit the deck and rolled up against the side of a remnant wall. I figured that helped my chances 50%. And the other guys did the same. One guy was kind of in shock on a jitney he was driving, which is a bomb loader. And he was kind of in shock and stayed in there. And our crew chief was right next to me, and all of a sudden he noticed this guy wasn't getting protection, and so he jumped up, and another mortar landed right in front of that jitney, and which protected the guy in it. The engine block or whatever it was shielded him. But a little mortar fragment hit my crew chief, which he got a little Purple Heart. He never wanted a Purple Heart, but he got one anyway. But it was kind of a brave thing that he jumped up to try to get the guy. And we had another real serious episode on the flight line too. This is further on during the tour, but all of a sudden we got on the flight line working on planes, and rockets and mortars started coming in, and it hit a plane right near where we were, and we just made a mad dash to a sandbag bunker. It was right next to the parking area, but we didn't have time to grab guns or anything else, and we were also told that the base had been penetrated by the enemy soldiers. They told us they're coming towards the flight line, and we just jumped into the sandbag bunker. There's about a group of us, 6 or 8 of us were in this thing, and the plane right nearby us was on fire from the mortar, and it was fully loaded with bombs and ammunition. And then the thing, and we didn't know how many people were coming. If it was just a few or a whole bunch, they just told us that they penetrated the base. And so we're sitting in here, and all of a sudden the bombs went off on a low-grade detonation, blew up, and it shot flames across the parking area and caught another F-100 on fire, and it was fully loaded. And then it blew, and then that did a diagonal that kind of worked its way. So we ended up losing 3 planes there, but while we're in there, all of a sudden we hear this fierce firefight going on of small arms. So we thought, just wild shooting going back and forth. We thought it was our troops fighting there. Turns out it was the ammo on the planes cooking.
Oh, yeah.
It took us about a half hour to figure that out. And it wasn't until the all clear that we found out that all the people that penetrated the base got taken care of before they got to the flight line. We didn't know that. So we were not so sure. I even put my hand up at the porthole in the sandbag bunker. There was a hole. I didn't want any hand grenades or put that up there. So that was kind of a scary night.
I guess.
And but there was those two episodes stand out in my mind.
How did you get over there from the States?
Was it C-141? Sat in the canvas seats and looking at boxes. That was a transport, and that's how we got over there. Stopped at Hawaii, then Midway, then the Philippines at Clarkfield, and then and into Van Rang. But anyway, it was.
Did you ever go up in an F-100?
No, I'd love to, but no.
Yeah.
I did sit in them and practice. You know, you have to calibrate the guns to make sure they're accurate. So at Buckley Field, we would go out in the far field, so it's an embankment. Each of us would take turns to fire some rounds of the guns at a target. And it'd only take one or two to see if you're on, but we had to put in about 10 or 12 or 15, you know, just to make sure. Each of us took a turn firing the.
Did you have any sidearms?
We had a rifle, M16 rifles, but none of us that night had time to grab anything. And all I had was a helmet on and my flak vest, and the guy next to me, Ron Tolles, said, I didn't have time to grab anything. So I said, well, take your pick. You want my helmet or your flak vest? You get one. And so I kind of laugh about it later.
Did you lose any planes out of your unit?
Yes, we did. Clyde Seiler was one of our pilots, and on a strafing mission, he got shot down, and we lost him. It was really a sad day for our group. And then just a few days later, our intelligence officer was on a forward air controller plane doing an intelligence survey, and that plane disappeared. Never. And his remains were not found until about 2007.
So he's an MIA.
Yeah, but then they finally, it was a weird story, but they finally found his bones and so forth.
Yeah. I don't know if I've talked to you about this. Perhaps I have the bracelets, the POW MIA bracelets we have over at the museum.
Yes.
And I can, if you send me those guys' names, I can have their bracelets and write up
that would be so
and
nice.
honor them.
Yeah.
And any others that anybody else that you can
went
think of.
on your video that you showed on YouTube, I saw the wall, and I'm really impressed with what you're doing. What a nice thing to do to honor these folks.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll be.
But I could give you those two names.
Yeah, I'll get them from you afterwards. Yeah, or you can email it to me too. I'll look them up because I'll have all their information. And so we'll do that. So, did you get any R&R while you were over there?
Yes, I went to Hawaii, and so my wife and our first daughter, she was still very pregnant, and she was disappointed she couldn't wear her bikini.
Yeah.
But my mom came over too to babysit.
Oh, nice.
So we could have some time.
Where did you stay when you were there?
At the Mauna Lani.
Wow.
My parents made sure we had a nice spot to stay, so we stayed at the Mauna Lani.
Oh, nice.
What a treat it was, but how difficult to get back on the plane and go back. And but we did that, and never forgot that. I will say one funny thing about us being in the Colorado as a unit in family. We all wore ski Colorado pins, distinguish ourselves from the regulars.
I talked to ladies that were stewardesses on flights, going and coming, and said it was such a stark contrast going on R&R, what the plane was like, and coming back.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I can just imagine,
Yeah.
It is just quiet. Just,
yeah, totally different.
Just thinking about,
But kind of the story. And I don't know if you want to get into it, but the coming home was incredible. My experience, and I wrote it in that essay that I wrote, was totally different than all the other soldiers coming home. The fact that we were all from the Denver, the Colorado area, the newspapers had constant news stories about our activities in Vietnam, so everybody in town knew where we were. My neighbors took incredible good care of my wife while we were gone. I found out the neighborhood, some of our Catholic families were burning candles for me while I was over there, which I'm extremely touched even to this day. But when we came home, everybody knew we were coming home. And our jets did a flyover the town of Denver. And then the governor was there to welcome us in. And it was just a lot of, and then I think I showed you a picture, the Associated Press photographer took a picture of my wife and I, and that ended up going around the world. It was really a neat thing to happen. But and when I drove home, it was so great to see my wife and daughters, and I met my new daughter, who's now about 5 months old, and it was an absolute great, warm welcome home. But across my garage door when I came home was a huge banner. It said, "Welcome home, Sergeant Sid," and all the neighborhood kids signed it, and I still have that to this day. Yeah. So it was very touching, and still means a lot to me that they did that.
So you went over in '68. What month?
Best I can recall was about April or so. It was about a week or two after the Tet Offensive.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, it probably might have been even in February. Yeah.
I took a helicopter flight going right over Saigon, the Chalon district, I think it was, that got attacked quite heavily. I flew right over that with the helicopter.
Had Phan Rang had to deal with that much during the Tet?
I don't know what happened on that base. I'm sure they received some orders and rockets. But there was a good thing that came out of all of this, and that was the fact I got the GI Bill. And because of that, which I'm eternally grateful for, I was able to go to graduate school. I got my master's in business administration at the University of Colorado.
Oh, okay.
And I would not have done that otherwise. Yeah. And that really helped me out in my post-war career in running some businesses and so forth.
So was that 2 years to get your master's?
It was about a year and a half. And my grades went up. My wife was typing my papers for some reason. But that was a good thing that came out of all that.
Yeah. So then what? When you finished got your master's?
Well, my dad says, now that you're educated and you're worldly and you've had experience working for a big lumber company, why don't you come back and help me out? And so I did that. I became an assistant controller for his chain of lumber yards that he had in the Bay Area.
What was the name of the company?
It was Hubbard and Johnson, the lumber company. And I helped him out for a couple of years, and then he sold the company to a national chain. And I took over a division of the lumber company that the company didn't want to buy. It was a structural contracting, specializing in timber construction for commercial buildings. And they weren't interested in that division, and I didn't want to go with the larger company. So I ended up buying my dad out of that division. Ended up doing that for 30 years and very active in Northern California construction for commercial work and helping to build Silicon Valley. We're doing a lot of specializing in laminated beams, timber construction. You see them in churches, the big wooden beams that are curved. And we did all that kind of work throughout Northern California. And probably our best known project is the Monterey Bay Aquarium. If you've ever been to see that, that was one of our projects.
Really? Okay.
I ran that. I was president of that company for 30 years, and then when my father died, he had another business, which was a mining operation, a slate mine out of Placerville. And when he died, the family asked for me to take over the president of that company too. Ended up doing that for 25 years, which kind of overlapped with the other one. So it was kind of a busy time, and then got involved with local politics too, and so was on our city council and mayor for a couple of years. So those were real busy years.
I'm sorry. So what did you do in politics?
Oh, my wife was pretty upset that she loved horses, and she loved a trail ride. But in our beautiful town that we lived in, Los Altos Hills, was well known for its rural setting and so forth, and a lot of trails. But people were building new homes and blocking trails, and she was getting frustrated and said, I think we should move. And I said, well, don't move. Let me see if I can do something about it. So I ended up running for city council, and barely made it, but then I ended up 2 terms. The second time was much easier. People I helped trying to save all these trail systems and all that, and it worked out pretty good. My wife was happy, so I'm happy.
So did you go on any more stuff in politics?
No, although I was involved as a fire commissioner, and I served on a lot of the YMCA board and was president of that, and Construction Employers Association in Northern California, I was president of that too. So.
How many people did you have working for you in your companies?
It would vary based on the construction demands, but probably a minimum of about 50 or 60 to 130, 140 carpenters.
Any trouble getting good people to work for you?
No, we had just great people, both office staff, and we had a very good bonus plan, incentive plan that the employees shared in, and so it worked out very good. It got a little bit out of control when they started questioning whether I really needed a new car or not. so,
Did you get down to Palm Springs much during those days?
Yeah, we had a part owner of a condominium in La Quinta, in which we took our third interest and shared it with my mother, and so it worked out good for me.
Was that in one of the clubs?
It was near the La Quinta Hotel, right across adjacent grounds.
Oh, right.
I can't remember the name of the condominium, but we could walk through the cabanas there in the hotel for our morning coffee. It was a real nice setup.
Yeah.
And we did that for years until I retired in 2001, and we decided to get our own place, and we bought a place in Rancho Mirage, and that.
Thunderbird Heights.
And now we spend 5 months every year in Thunderbird Heights.
Right. Yeah. Did you travel much, you and your wife?
A little bit. Through Stanford University, they had some great trips where they bring their professors and give talks at night, and they see things. We went down the Danube and the Baltic Sea cruise, and through Italy and Greece. And so we did some real nice trips with Alaska.
Were you involved with Stanford at all, like being on a board or anything like that? Or
no, I just helped build a lot of buildings on campus.
Did you? Yeah.
The stadium, some of the entrances.
Yeah,
and
Diana, we were up there, again, it was one of our northern California thing, and we went to, they were just opening that new Stanford Stadium. We went to Notre Dame games when Notre Dame plays up there every 2 years. I'm a big Notre Dame fan. So
great.
But we did. It was amazing. It was hot that day.
Yeah.
It was like in the 80s. It was one of those sunny, hot days, and but I remember that. Remember that, honey?
Yes.
Yeah. I used to go to all the games at the old stadium.
The old stadium, yeah. But it was the new. Was it? Were the old replaced the old stadium, or
yeah, they stripped it down.
It was. That's what I kind of thought. I mean,
they took it all down and rebuilt the new stadium in 1 year. It was an amazing feat.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, it was, yeah. So, do you see your kids a lot? I guess during the...
yeah, I have two daughters, and they're both great kids. In fact, I just got back with a week trip with our two daughters on the core family trip. We went up to San Simeon, to Carmel, where we had our honeymoon. And then we went back to the Bay Area where they could see some of our old friends. And but one lives in the Denver area, was an executive with Deloitte, a big management consulting company, and the other one is now in Birmingham, Alabama. She and her husband they have a great business of putting call center deals together for the big companies. Hewlett Packard will come to them and say, I have a new product, need to respond in 13 different languages to service calls, and he'll put a deal together like that. So, and she helps them out doing that.
I heard you mention, I think when you were at college or something, one day when you were playing golf or something. So when did you start playing golf?
Well, when I was 10 years old.
Did Dad play?
My dad was a great golfer. He played at San Jose Country Club and then at Sharon Heights Country Club in Menlo Park. And so yeah, he would take me out there, and it cost him a lot of money with all the golf balls we put over the fence.
Yeah. And you said your dad did your dad go to college?
Yeah, he went to San Jose State.
San Jose State. And he played football there.
Yeah.
And he said semi-pro ball after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you had a story about that you were going to tell me about when he played semi-pro. Who did he play
Oh,
for?
I played semi-pro
Oh, you did? Yeah.
for the Colorado Colts.
Oh.
I was working for Weyerhaeuser, but I still had that. My dad played professional. Maybe I had potential or something, but then I had a great job with Weyerhaeuser. But then I'm reading the sports section that they have a semi-pro. The practices are at 6 o'clock and the games are on the weekend. Geez, I could do that too and work. And so this is the craziest day of my life. I was playing linebacker for them. That turned out to be a natural position for me. Mm-hmm. So I was playing linebacker for this, and we'd play some of the junior colleges. Third game of the season was at a federal penitentiary in Canyon City, Colorado. The town is nothing but prisons. But believe it or not, they had a football team. And an awesome experience going into the prison with the gates clanging behind you, inspecting your bags. We go out on the field. Well, it's not a normal stadium. It's just their play yard chalked off. There's no seats. And so but they allow the inmate population to come down and watch the game, and they're 4 and 5 people deep on all 4 edges of the field. And they're taunting us, calling us every name in the book and everything else. So then I'm playing linebacker for them, and it was a 0-0 game, and all of a sudden I intercept a pass, and I run 70 yards for a TD. I'm feeling pretty. I didn't score that many touchdowns, so that felt pretty good.
Yeah.
After the kickoff, I'm back on defense, and all these inmates on the sidelines are pointing their finger, get 65, get 60. The very next play, the referee blows a whistle when the play was over. I stopped running, and I didn't see it. The guy came at me running full speed, hit me right above the ankle, broke my ankle, and twisted my knee. I'm on the deck, hurting bad, but I could hear the cheers going up from the inmates. I swear to God, this happened. I can't get to my feet because I was hurt so bad. They bring a stretcher out, a canvas stretcher out. To the cheers of all the inmates, they're going to haul the outsider off on a stretcher. They get me on the stretcher, and they're carrying me off the field, and it splits wide open. I swear to God, this is the craziest. Now they jerry-rig it so they get me off the field. They take me to the prison infirmary. And they have a guard assigned to me. So they put a call in for an orthopedic doctor. So while waiting for the doctor, they do have an x-ray machine. And so one of the inmates, a creepy-looking inmate, is my technician, taking my pictures. And when he leaves the room, the guard nudges me. He says, "Hey, you know who that is, don't you?" Well, he's the guy that kidnapped and murdered Adolf Coors, the founder of Coors Beer.
Oh my God.
Famous Colorado case, and that was my X-ray technician. Anyway, I came home with a cast on, and my wife and my boss both said, "That's it." That was my last football game. And a few years later, the movie The Longest Yard came out, and I think they stole my script.
I was just thinking about that. Yeah, what's his name? Dinosaur's husband at one time. Yeah, he played in that. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that's the first thing that came to mind when you started talking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, those are the days, huh?
Yeah.
So what do you still play golf then?
Yeah, I love golf. I play here and in Northern California.
Where do you play here usually?
I'm a member at Thunderbird Country Club, and I've been very active with that. I was even president 1 year of the club, and it's a really nice group of people there.
Yeah, yeah. So. Like I said, I came in 1970, and Phil Harris was a member there, and he's from Indiana, and
yeah, we go
Alice Faye, and
yeah, Lucy and Desi's.
Howie Carmichael.
Yeah.
And all those guys. I was when I first came here, I was associated with a dentist, and he was right close to Thunderbird, right, kind of by on 111 where that little bridge is. Anyway, he had a little kind of a house and into it. But anyway, and he was a member at Thunderbird. So a lot of those guys. Phil Harris?
Huh? Who is this?
Well, it was the dentist that I worked for.
Yeah.
Or I was in his, Dr. Lassiter was his name. And interesting about him, he was from Chicago, and he played football for Northwestern. And he played, and he told me he played in the final game against George Gipp for Notre Dame.
Huh.
And he was the defensive end, Dr. Lassiter. I thought, I wonder if and so I looked up, and sure enough, that was the last game Gipp played. Played Northwestern, the last game of the year. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
He's passed away a long time ago. But anyway, and he knew a lot of guys from Indiana that were like Phil Harris and Howie Carmichael. And so I just see them from time to time.
Yeah, that's quite a group with Bing Crosby and all that.
Oh, yeah. So who do you usually play with? You have special guys that you play with?
Well, one person, in fact, I played with him yesterday. It was Howard Crosby, which is Bing Crosby's nephew.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And we've become good friends. And I think he sings just as good as Bing Crosby. And he does sing professionally.
Does he?
And there's a lot of Irish songs, and he goes to Europe and singing a little bit. And for my birthday, he even doctored up a Nat King Cole song and put words about my golf game and sang that to me on my birthday. That was kind of...
What was your lowest handicap?
I think about a 9. So I'm still about a 14 in my age.
That's pretty
Shot
good.
my age a few times.
Have you really? I never was able to do that.
82, I finally did it.
That's great, yeah. Well, I think we might be getting ready to wrap up. Any parting thoughts?
No, I just feel like I appreciate so much what you're doing.
Wow.
And you, Diane, and all the volunteers. This has been one of our favorite places to come with all the grandkids, and it's really stimulated their careers too. In engineering, aerospace engineering, and industrial engineering, and so a great appreciation for the Air Museum here.
Well, Sid, thank you for your service. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for yours,
hope that
too.
we'll see you around here next fall for sure.
Yeah.
And thanks for all you've done for your community and for your family and your church and everything too. So thank you, buddy.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you for everything you're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.